Hey guys, happy Friday, and we're going to be looking today at solving one-step inequalities. The quick code for this skill is QWH. One-step inequalities are really similar to one-step equations. The only major difference, you've got inequality instead of an equal sign, which comes in 4 different flavors: greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. For the most part, you won't really have to touch them, and you'll basically follow the exact same steps as you would if you were solving an equation. There'll be a couple of differences we might run into as we go through some of these problems when we deal with negative numbers, but there might not be any differences at all. All right, first thing we're going to do is solve for r. We're going to follow the exact same steps that we normally do when we solve for an equation. So r plus 7 is greater than 10. Now, to keep up with me, I would recommend that you go ahead and get a pencil and paper. So if you need to pause this video and grab that, go ahead and do so. All right, I like to draw a line in the middle right here, right through my inequality. That way I know where that it should be and what the two different sides of my equation actually are and what's on them. First thing I need to do is get this r by itself. And in this case, it'll also be the last thing I'm going to do because it's only one step. To get the r by itself, I use the inverse of whatever is happening to that r now. So right now I'm adding 7 to the r. The inverse of adding is subtracting. Inverse means opposite, and adding and subtracting are opposites. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 7 that I was adding before. Since I'm subtracting the 7 on the left, anything I do to the left, I do to the right. All right. Once I've subtracted the one that I was adding, 7 minus 7 is 0, so all that's left is the r. I put my inequality exactly as it is on that line, and on the right-hand side, I take 10 minus 7, and I'm left with 3. It's a funny looking 3. Nice job, Mr. Shaw. So r is greater than 3. Let's see if we got it. Sweet. Let's try another. The next one says q divided by 2 is greater than 2. Q divided by 2 is greater than 2. So since I'm dividing here, my inverse is going to be addition. Right? Wrong. I said it totally wrong. Since I'm dividing here, the inverse is going to be multiplication. Let's see if I can squeeze in a little times 2 there, times 2 here. Once I've multiplied this 2 that's on the denominator of this fraction, they cancel each other out, and I'm left with q. 2 times 2 on the right-hand side leaves me with 4, so q is greater than 4. Let's try it. I got it. 3b less than 9. This time I am multiplying. So I'll go ahead and draw my line in the middle. And the opposite or inverse of multiplication is division. Let's divide that 3 by 3, divide the 9 by 3 on the right-hand side. I am left with b by itself on the left, and 9 divided by 3 on the right-hand side leaves me with 3. All right, let's take a look. B less than 3. I always get so nervous. Some of these you should be able to use mental math and be able to basically solve them in your head. So I see here 2t is less than 4. I know that this is multiplying, so the inverse is division. I can divide both sides by 2, and I'm left with t by itself on the left-hand side. The sign stays the same. 4 divided by 2 leaves me with 2. Blam. Almost all of these are going to be quick enough that you can do them in your head if you're following the same process. So we just need to make sure that we're following it correctly. Figure out what the inverse operation is of the operation that's happening. Calculate that, doing the same thing on the left as you do to the right, and you'll have your answer. One step. J plus 2, the inverse is subtraction. So I subtract 2 from the left, I subtract 2 from the right, and j is less than 8. The most common mistake I've seen is students using the wrong sign, but since we're not moving or changing the sign at all, you just keep the sign exactly the same. Subtract 6, c is less than 1. How quickly can we beat this skill? Plus 7, I could subtract 7 from both sides. I need to be careful to make sure that I am using the right inequality, which is less than or equal to 8 minus 7 is 1. Go a little bit further and see if we find anything trickier, but I think this is really all there is to it, and I don't think you'll have much trouble with it. I multiply both sides by 2. 10 times 2 is 20. Here I've got a negative 19. Ooh, scary. So if I have a negative and divide it by this positive 19, my answer, negative divided by a positive, will be a negative, will be 1, negative 1. The only time that would be done differently is if we run into an equation or an inequality where the number we're dividing or multiplying by is actually negative. I don't know if we'll see an example like that, but we'll take a look at that when we do cross it. All right, I divide both sides by 6. 12 divided by 6 is 2. Keep the same inequality. Bada bing, bada boom. Again, here, the number that we're multiplying or dividing by is 2. It's positive, so we don't need to do anything differently than we normally do. I multiply 2 times negative 1, and z is greater than negative 2. It really is that simple, but if you need any help, do not hesitate to reach out to us and ask. Good luck.